My sister thinks she's entitled to name my baby, since she can't have kids. My sister looked me dead in the eye and said she deserves to name my baby because she can't have one of her own. I almost dropped the mug of tea I was holding when those words came out of her mouth. I knew she was struggling with infertility, but I never imagined her pain would twist into this kind of entitlement over my child. In that instant, a mix of shock, anger, and heartbreak washed over me. I realized this wasn't going to be a normal family disagreement. For context, I'm a 29-year-old woman expecting my first baby, and my sister is 34. We've always been close, or at least I thought we were. Growing up, she was my best friend and protector. We'd stay up late whispering about our future, what jobs we'd have, how many kids, even baby names. Especially baby names. My sister always wanted to be a mom. She had a list of baby names picked out since she was a teenager, long before she even had a serious boyfriend. Back then, I found it sweet, if a bit obsessive. I never guessed how much that list would matter decades later. Sadly, life had other plans. In her mid-20s, she found out she can't have children. It was a devastating blow. She had struggled with health issues for years, and eventually got a diagnosis that meant carrying a pregnancy to term would be nearly impossible for her. I remember the night she told me. We sat on her kitchen floor eating ice cream from the tub while she sobbed that all her dreams of motherhood were shattered. I held her and cried too. My heart absolutely broke for her. She went through a deep depression afterward. Therapy, support groups, you name it. Family gatherings were hard when unaware relatives would ask, "So when will it be your turn to have a baby?" Each time, I saw her force a smile while pain flickered in her eyes. It was painful to watch. Our parents were devastated for her. Mom prayed for a miracle. Dad even looked into adoption possibilities. She did consider adoption once, but it fell through. Now she's basically accepted that she'll never be a mother. Still, I know part of her is always quietly grieving that loss. I empathize so much with her pain. When I found out I was pregnant, I was overjoyed but also anxious about telling my sister. I broke the news to her gently. She hugged me and started sobbing happy for me, she said. But it was a lot for her to process. I understood. I promised to involve her as much as possible. She could come to ultrasound appointments, help with baby prep, maybe even be in the delivery room. She seemed grateful for that, and I hoped this could be a positive, healing experience for her. For the next few months, my sister was incredibly involved in my pregnancy. She checked on me constantly, sent me nursery ideas and baby name suggestions, and was always bringing over little gifts or baby clothes. It was sweet, if occasionally a bit much. I appreciated her enthusiasm and even thought maybe my worries were for nothing. We did grow closer in some ways. Whenever I felt anxious or sick, she was right there to comfort me. But as my belly grew, so did my sister's attachment to this baby and her sense of involvement in decisions that weren't hers to make. The first real red flag came around 20 weeks after my anatomy scan. My husband and I found out we were expecting a girl, and we announced the gender to the family over dinner at our parents' house. The moment I said, "It's a girl," my sister's face lit up brighter than anyone else's. Almost immediately, she clapped her hands and squealed, "A girl! Have you thought of names yet?" I have so many ideas. I laughed lightly and said something like, "We have a couple of names in mind, but we're not decided just yet." That was true. My husband and I had a short list of favorites, but we weren't set on anything yet. My sister, however, took my polite answer as an invitation. She practically sprinted to grab her purse from the living room. I was confused until she pulled out an entire notebook filled with baby names. It looked well worn, with pages of names and notes, likely that same list she started as a teen. She flipped it open and immediately began enthusiastically rattling off suggestions, barely pausing for breath. "How about Lillian? You could call her Lily, so cute. Or Charlotte. Classic and elegant. Ooh, what about Eva? Short, sweet, and it means life." She went on and on. My husband subtly put a hand on my back, as if to steady me, sensing I was overwhelmed. I forced a smile and said, "These are some really pretty names. Thanks for sharing them, husband, and I will definitely talk it over." I thought I handled it politely enough, but I could see my sister had expected a different reaction, maybe instant excitement or agreement. She pressed a little, "Do you like any of them? I have meanings written down too." I repeated gently that we'd consider her suggestions, then I tried to steer the conversation back to dessert or something. She let it drop, but I sensed her disappointment in the air. That night, back at home, I told my husband I was feeling a bit uneasy. He admitted he found her name Frenzy overwhelming too. "She's acting like it's her baby," he said softly. I defended her. "She's just trying to be involved. It probably means a lot to her to contribute." And I did believe that. but there was also a little knot in my stomach. A protective feeling. This was our daughter. Naming our baby was a special thing for me and my husband to do. It didn't feel right to hand that over. Still, I tried to brush it off. In the weeks that followed, the baby name issue just wouldn't die. My sister texted me new suggestions almost daily, and I'd reply vaguely that we hadn't decided. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but I also wasn't going to commit to one of her names just to please her. One evening, my husband and I actually sat down with her notebook, trying to keep open minds. We went through her lists together. The names were lovely, many of them timeless classics. Lillian, Hannah, Rosemary, Francesca, and so on. But none of them felt like our baby. Some were a bit too traditional for our taste, or we had other associations with them. We already had a couple of favorites of our own. Both of us were really drawn to the name Zoe, for example, which means life. In the end, we decided we'd stick to our own list. We'd name our daughter something that resonated with us, even if it wasn't on my sister's list. As I entered my third trimester, I began gently trying to set expectations with my sister. One day she asked, "Any name ideas yet?" And I carefully said, "We have a short list of a few we love. We're going to decide once we meet her." She looked visibly let down. "Oh, I was kind of hoping you'd use one of my suggestions. I've been picturing her as a Lily or a Charlotte all this time," she admitted. I softened my voice and said, "Lily is adorable. It just might not be the name we end up choosing, you know? We want to see what feels right." She went quiet, then murmured, "If I can't have a baby, at least let me live vicariously a little through yours." That comment set off alarms in my head. Live vicariously through mine? I understood where the feeling came from, but it also felt like a red line was being crossed. I responded as gently as I could. "You're going to be an amazing aunt, and she's so lucky to have you. I want you involved, I really do. But certain things, like naming her, that's something husband and I have to do as her parents." She just nodded, but I could tell she wasn't happy. Then came the baby shower 2 weeks ago. My mom and sister threw it for me at Mom's house. I was 8 months pregnant and exhausted, so I was genuinely grateful they handled the planning. It was lovely at first. Cute decorations, great food, the usual goofy shower games. But the moment I walked into the living room, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Hanging above the gift table was a huge banner that read, "Welcome Baby Lily," in glittery script. I just froze for a second, staring at it. Immediately, I felt a dozen pairs of eyes on me, gauging my reaction. We hadn't told anyone the name we were considering. In fact, we'd been telling people we were waiting to decide until she was born. Seeing baby Lily all over the decor was a shock. I tried to play it off with a shaky smile, but inside I was boiling and panicking. Maybe they just picked a random name for the theme? Why not baby girl or something then? Pretty soon, some friends at the shower started asking me, "So you decided on Lily? That's such a beautiful name." I caught my sister's eye across the room. She had this eager, expectant smile on her face. Before I could even respond to my friends, she chirped in, "Oh, my name hasn't officially decided. I just thought baby Lily looked cute for today, you know, for the theme." She laughed like it was a joke, and the conversation flowed on. A few people said things like, "Well, Lily is a lovely name if you use it," and my sister beamed at me as if to say, "See? Everyone loves it." As the party went on, I noticed a pattern with the gifts. Multiple presents were customized with the name Lily. My sister had hand-embroidered a beautiful quilt with Lily stitched in one corner. Another gift was a wooden name sign for the nursery, Lily, in pretty script letters. With each gift I opened that had Lily on it, my face got hotter. I felt trapped. If I continued to protest, I'd ruin my own baby shower. But if I pretended to be okay with this, would everyone now assume my daughter's name was Lily? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and thanked everyone for the lovely gifts, then added, as casually as I could, that we actually hadn't decided on a name yet, so my baby might not be Lily. The room felt awkwardly quiet for a moment, and a few people forced laughs. My sister looked like I had dumped ice water on her. We moved on quickly to cutting the cake, but the tension was sky high. As soon as I could do so without making an even bigger scene, I pulled my sister aside into the hallway. I was holding the embroidered quilt in my arms. My voice was low but angry. "What the hell was that, sister? Why would you put Lily on everything?" She immediately went defensive and wide-eyed, like I was the one overreacting. "I just wanted to surprise you. You kept saying you weren't sure on a name, and baby girl as a theme was so boring. The shower needed something cute," she insisted. I gestured at the quilt, my voice rising despite trying to stay calm. "You've basically announced her name without my consent. That's not your decision to make." She hissed back, "Well, you weren't choosing one. You've been dragging your feet. I wanted her to have a name to make it feel real." This was my only chance to do something like this for her, to feel like I'm contributing. She was getting emotional, her eyes shiny with tears. I replied, exasperated. Contributing? You're going to be her aunt. You'll have so many ways to contribute to her life. But you cannot just decide her name. That's a mom and dad decision. That's my decision. I could see her starting to cry for real now, and part of me ached for her, but I held firm. Then she broke. All the fight went out of her and was replaced by desperate, ugly sobbing. You don't understand, she gasped between cries. Ever since you told me you were pregnant, I've been so happy for you, but it also hurts so much. I am trying so hard to cope. Planning this shower, thinking about names, it helped me. It made me feel included, like I have a special role in her life. I'll never get to name my own baby. Can't you please just let me have this one thing? It's just a name. Just a name. She was practically begging, tears streaming down her face, my own eyes filled with tears. This was everything I feared and tried to avoid. It was raw and tragic, but also so unfair to put on me. I took a shaky breath. I'm sorry you're hurting, I said quietly, but I can't give you this. Naming my daughter is a special part of being her mom. I won't give that up. She looked at me with pure anguish, and then it twisted into anger. You're so selfish, she spat, voice cracking. You have everything I want, and you won't even share one thing. One small thing that would make me happy. Her words stabbed at my heart, and anger shot through me too. In a cold, quiet voice, I replied, She's my baby, not yours. This isn't something to share. I'm her mother. You are her aunt. That's it. My sister's hand flew to her mouth as if I had physically hit her. She let out a wounded noise, turned on her heel, and ran out of the front door, sobbing. I stood there in the hallway, trembling. A second later, I heard the front door slam shut. She was gone. Mom pulled me aside, having seen my sister run out. When I told her what happened, Mom actually suggested that maybe I should have just let my sister have her way to help her heal. I was floored. I told Mom this wasn't about a name at all. It was about a boundary. I couldn't even continue the conversation. I just shook my head and said I needed to go home. I left with my husband shortly after, still in a haze of emotion. He helped gather the gifts and we slipped out while some guests were still finishing cake, everyone sensing something was off. In the car, I broke down sobbing. My husband rubbed my back and kept saying, You did the right thing. I'm proud of you for standing up for us. I wanted to believe him, but I just felt miserable. This was supposed to be one of the happiest milestones of my life. Instead, I felt like I was starring in a tragedy. Since the shower, my sister has barely spoken to me. It's been 2 weeks. She ignored my follow-up texts where I tried to explain and offered to talk things through calmly. She's also not returning my calls. My mom tells me that she's deeply hurt and feels like I don't trust her with my baby. My mom keeps urging me to apologize and compromise, like let my sister pick the middle name to honor her or something. Honestly, I'm not inclined to do even that at this point. I feel like that ship has sailed. The way she tried to force the name on us has really broken my trust. My husband, for his part, is completely done with the whole topic. He doesn't want my sister having any influence on the name or anything else right now. He's furious on my behalf, even more than I am. To add more stress, I'm due in just a few weeks. Instead of feeling excited, I'm stressed by this family Cold War. I'm caught in the middle of a family divide over this. My dad, who usually avoids drama, called to say he supports me and hopes my sister will come around eventually, but I'm not so sure. As things stand, my sister says she won't come to the hospital when I give birth unless I've forgiven her and agreed to discuss the baby's name again. That ultimatum felt like a punch to the gut. She's essentially holding her presence in my life hostage unless I let her have her way. And Mom, of course, relayed this to me with a tone suggesting I should bend to keep the peace. I haven't responded to any of it. Honestly, I am emotionally exhausted. I love my sister dearly, and part of me aches knowing how much she's hurting. I hate that my happiness is causing her pain. But I also feel angry and betrayed that she's made my pregnancy, which should be about me and my baby, all about her and what she's lost. This whole situation is a mess, and I'm terrified it's only going to get worse once the baby is actually here. I'm trying my best to stay positive for the sake of my daughter. But there's this heavy sadness, too. I always imagined my sister being a big part of my child's life from day one. Now I'm facing the real possibility that she won't be there at all, at least not in the beginning. The thought breaks my heart. I find myself wishing more than anything that things could go back to how they were before. I wish my sister wasn't in so much pain. I wish she could have a baby of her own, so none of this pain and drama would exist. I wish I could make all of this better for everyone, but I can't. I don't even know who I'm more upset with at this point. My sister for pushing so hard and then ghosting me when I didn't give in. My mom for encouraging her and guilting me. Or myself for maybe not handling it the best way, or not seeing it coming earlier. All I know is that in a few short weeks, I'll be bringing my daughter into the world. It should be a purely joyful occasion. Instead, I'm dreading the inevitable family drama that will come with it. I just want peace and joy when my baby arrives. But right now, it feels like nothing about this will end peacefully. Update 1. Hi everyone. I didn't expect to be back with an update so soon, but a lot has happened. First, thank you for all the supportive comments on my original post. It really helped reinforce that I wasn't being unreasonable to set boundaries. I gave birth to my baby girl not long after my first post. She arrived a bit early but healthy, and we did name her Zoe, as my husband and I had planned. I decided not to inform my sister while I was in labor, to avoid any stress or drama. We told my parents after Zoe was born, and they met her at the hospital, without my sister. My sister found out from my mom that the baby had arrived. She texted me a simple, "Congrats, I'm glad you're both okay." It was a very curt message, but at least she acknowledged it. I was emotionally drained and didn't respond to her text right away. After we came home, my mom kept asking when I would let my sister come visit to meet the baby. I was hesitant. I wanted to recover from childbirth and get a little settled first, and honestly, I was afraid of more conflict. But a week or so later, I agreed, hoping my sister would just be a loving aunt and leave the naming issue alone now that the baby was here and officially named. Well, the visit did not go as I hoped. My sister came over to our house, and at first, things were actually cordial. She even brought some homemade food for us, which I appreciated. When she saw Zoe, she got emotional and said she was beautiful. I let her hold the baby, and she was gentle and sweet, cooing over her. For a few minutes, I felt a rush of relief. Maybe we could move past all this. But inevitably, the name issue crept back in. While holding my daughter, my sister looked up and asked, "So, are you really calling her Zoe?" I said yes, that's her name. My sister's face sort of froze, and then she looked back at the baby and said softly, "Hi, Lily." She used that name again as she gazed at her. I immediately tensed up. I gently corrected her. "Her name is Zoe." My sister smiled thinly and said something like, "She just feels like a Lily to me. Maybe that can be my special nickname for her." I told her no, that wasn't an appropriate nickname, and that we want everyone to use her real name. My voice was calm but firm. She started to get upset and insisted, "But I've been thinking of her as Lily for so long. It's hard to switch. Are you sure you won't reconsider? Lily is such a pretty name." That's when I realized this was going to devolve into the same argument again. I reiterated that we were not changing our minds, and that I needed her to respect that. What followed was an emotional blow-up. My sister handed the baby back to me and said through tears that I was being cruel and shutting her out of something she cared deeply about. She accused me of naming the baby out of spite just to hurt her. I was flabbergasted and told her this was absolutely not about her and that she was making my baby's birth all about herself. Things got heated, and I finally told her it was best she leave. I didn't yell. I just firmly said it was time for her to go because we weren't going to do this in front of my newborn. She left my house in tears, saying something like, "Fine, I guess I really am not welcome in your life now." It was heartbreaking. I broke down crying after she drove away, both out of frustration and sadness. After she drove away, I collapsed onto the couch in sobs, both from frustration and sadness. My husband, who had been keeping a distance to let us talk, comforted me and reassured me I'd done the right thing. Even so, it hurt so much that things had come to this. It's been a few days since that happened. My sister and I are not speaking at the moment. She hasn't reached out, and frankly, I haven't either. My mom is very upset about the whole ordeal. She's begging me to somehow work things out, but at the same time, she witnessed how bad the visit went, and she knows I had reason to ask my sister to leave. For now, I've decided I need space from my sister. I'm focusing on my newborn and my own recovery. I truly hope my sister can come to terms with her emotions and eventually be part of Zoe's life in a healthy way. But I'm not going to expose my daughter or myself to that kind of stress until my sister gets herself under control. It's a very sad outcome, but I feel I did everything I could. I let her meet the baby, I stayed calm setting my boundary, and she couldn't handle it. I'm hoping time and maybe therapy will help her, but I'm not sure what the future holds. I'll update again if there are further developments. For now, I'm trying to move forward and enjoy being a new mom, even though I'm grieving the rift with my sister. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update. Unfortunately, my sister and I are still estranged, but there have been some developments that shed light on her perspective. In the weeks after our falling out, we had virtually no contact. It was heartbreaking, but I kept my distance, focusing on caring for baby Zoe. During this time, my mom confided in me about something I never knew. Years ago, my sister became pregnant and had a miscarriage. It was early in the pregnancy, but my sister had already begun to think of the baby by a name, Lily. I was stunned and heartbroken for her. Suddenly, her fixation on my daughter's name made a tragic kind of sense. That name isn't just a random favorite. It's tied to a child she never got to have. My poor sister had been carrying that grief quietly all this time. With this new understanding, I decided to reach out to my sister. I sent her a heartfelt message. I told her I loved her, that I was sorry for what she went through, and that I now understood why the name meant so much to her. I also gently explained that I had to do what I felt was right for my own child, but that none of it was ever meant to hurt her. I said I hoped we could find a way to heal and that I want her in our lives when she's ready, while still respecting the boundaries we need. I was extremely anxious waiting for her response, but after a couple of days she finally replied. Her response was brief and civil. She said she loves me too, but that she needs more time and is not ready to talk face-to-face yet. She mentioned that she has started therapy, which I was relieved to hear, and that, for now, she thinks it's best we keep some distance. She didn't directly address the details of my message or the miscarriage, aside from saying she has a lot to work through. I could read between the lines that she is still in a lot of pain. I'll admit I cried when I read her message. Not from anger this time, but from a mix of relief and sadness. It comforted me to know she still loves me, but it hurts that she can't be in my life fully right now.